Energy, explains Albert Einstein, cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. If that's true, then perhaps the mystics are right. Death is merely a transition to another state of being. It's the one thing every one of us is born to do: die. Today on In Search of the Divine, we'll talk with people who are dying and people who work with the dying to see if we can learn what it takes to die gracefully. Stay tuned.
Moving always towards profound love of God and neighbor without distinction. This is the mission.
This is the movement.
We are the community of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet and Consociates.
And we invite you to join us. We are women and men of various ages, backgrounds, and faith traditions.
Sisters, commonly known as CSJs, founded this movement over 360 years ago in France. Then, as now, women respond to the needs of the times through work and prayer in community.
The Sisters' passion and work for justice has inspired others to join them, including Consociates, who formally affiliate with the CSJs and live out this mission in their own lives.
Young adults find a spiritual community here through transformative learning, intentional living, and organic communal gardening.
Find the many ways you can join this movement. Visit us online.
Together, let us build a world of peace, justice, and reconciliation.
Dying. It may be a fact of life, but in our culture at least, it can be tough for most of us to think about it, let alone discuss. But there are some people whose work can provide some really helpful insights.
My work with dying really started when I became the coordinator for our sisters at Bethany. As I got to know them and as they moved along in their life experience, getting closer to death, we would be able to get into that arena and talk about what that meant to them. What does it mean to you that this life is coming to an end?
It was this gentleman, Bruce Kramer, who came into my life. He was a former college dean at the University of St. Thomas, and he was diagnosed with ALS, which is an always fatal disease, in December of 2010. Bruce was amazing. He was so philosophical about his life with this terminal illness. We had this series of conversations on the radio, and that we birthed the book together before his passing. We know how this ends, living while dying. And that man was on fire. He was the busiest dying man I've ever met in my life. And we put that book together in 3 months.
My work with the dying includes mostly just being present to them and often to their family members and friends as well. Sometimes we're not called in until the last moment and the person who's dying is unable to communicate at that point.
I've been a hospice nurse for 20 years. So people often ask me, you see this all the time, it's probably the same for you, and it's not, because everybody is different when they face death.
Facing death. For some, death comes as a surprise without time to prepare. But for those we are talking with today, death is an insightful journey. Sister Marguerite Turgeon, a sister of St. Joseph of Carondelet, was 101 when we spoke with her. She was a teacher and later in life an occupational therapist.
I'm in hospice, yes. I keep thinking, well, when am I going to die? You know, I don't have They never tell me that there's something the matter with me. I'm supposed to have COPD, which means I should have some trouble with breathing or something. But I don't feel like I need oxygen. I think I'm all right.
Sister Pat DeBleek, also a sister of St. Joseph of Carondelet, was a nurse and midwife. She was 79 when we spoke with her.
I'm on hospice. Doctor says my DNA has gone wacko, just putting out. And of course, now I have cancer in all the lymph nodes from head to toe, and I have cancer in all the bone marrow from head to toe. And so the treatment was, well, not too good, but you could probably live 2.5 years with treatment. And I said, well, what about without treatment? It's about 2.5 years. So it was an easy choice. I didn't take any chemo or radiation.
I'm in hospice. I got a little sick. I had been smoking for years, and it all caught up to me at once. Plus a little heart. The heart went bad too at the same time, and I got a 1-2 punch. So I'm pretty well down.
Harold Berg, a telephone installer in his professional life, was 92 when we spoke with him.
Hospice is not a good word for people. It's like a funeral parlor. It's like a loaded gun, a smoking gun. Everybody knows what hospice is for. It's for the end of life. And you got to get used to that.
In a moment, we'll hear more from those journeying through or with those in the dying process.
Since its beginnings in France in the 17th century, the Sisters of St. Joseph have responded to the needs of the time. Today, in the 21st century, the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet address concerns as they arise. In the St. Paul province, located in Minnesota, the Sisters of St. Joseph and Associates have a Justice Commission, which gives priority to a variety of issues. Among the vital areas facing us today are care for creation and sustainability of Earth, efforts to address human trafficking. To view the other nearly dozen life issues, we invite you to go to the Justice area of our website, www.csjstpaul.org. The Justice Commission of the Sisters of St. Joseph and Associates invite you to join us in the movement for awareness and education and bringing about solutions through legislative advocacy.
Dying gracefully. Once people know they are dying, assuming they benefit from a supportive care system, they can access a wide range of physical, emotional, and spiritual care. When a person enters hospice, the patient's medical care can shift and doors open to a very special journey. Our conversations with patients and caregivers suggest a 5-step process for a grace-filled death.
Dying is very hard work. And really, there is something that the person is doing in this dying process. They're reviewing their lives. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I haven't been there yet. But something is happening, and it's very difficult work. Summing up your life, pulling it together, I don't know, being more present to the next and not this, letting go of all of that, that's tough stuff to do.
Learning to be I was very independent, and now I have to depend on everything, everybody, and I'm a little stubborn. Not a little stubborn, quite a bit. So.
Right now I'm doing mostly I just think. I do a lot of reading and I watch TV. But I'm very, very tired. I don't do much work anymore.
Well, I just kind of think, I hope it won't take too long. Because when you feel wretched, You'd like to kind of get it over with.
The big barrier is fear. What will happen at the end of my life? I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to struggle to breathe. I don't want to be a burden to my family. Those are all pretty common fears, right?
To be afraid or fearful is normal because no one ever knows how to do this.
I know, it's gonna happen, but it'll happen to me, I'm sure, but I'm not ready for it. We're not gonna talk about it yet. We'll get to that point at some point.
What do I know about dying? I know that I'm not afraid of it anymore. I used to be. I mean, aren't we all, really? I think Bruce showed no fear as he was dying because he knew that was going to happen. And I've learned from him, one of the big takeaways for me is that you shouldn't have that fear. He believed there was something else beyond this world. And after being with Bruce, I think he's right. So that fear of what's to come I don't have that anymore because I think there is something beyond this existence.
And there are family members who won't come to visit because they don't know what to do and they don't know what to say and they're afraid of what they're going to see. And sometimes it's really hard to reach those people, and sometimes we're not successful, that they're so uncomfortable that they won't come. And they're so afraid of what's going to happen or that they'll say the wrong thing that they would rather not say. They would rather not even be here.
After this break, we'll learn 3 more suggestions to help you or someone you love die gracefully.
Prayer is a powerful thing. If you would like the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet to pray for you or a special intention, visit the prayersplease.com website or download a free Android, iPhone, iPad, or BlackBerry app on your smartphone. Once you submit a request, it is forwarded to Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet in New York, Missouri, Minnesota, California, and Hawaii, and they are honored to pray for your intentions.
So far, our experts on graceful dying have shared that dying is hard work and fear is natural. We continue our conversation about steps to a grace-filled death with those who know.
My experience, faith makes a huge difference. If a person has a sense of where they're going and what kind of life they've lived, it seems more grace-filled to me, easier somehow for them to part with what they have here, knowing that they're going, or believing that they're going to someplace else, to something else better.
Not everyone believes there is something beyond this existence, and maybe it doesn't matter because whatever happens after death will happen or not happen regardless. But it sure seems like the gift of faith makes for an easier transition.
So for somebody who doesn't have faith, it seems to me I would still want to know something like what has been so meaningful in your life that it has given you life? What has led you along your way so that you are where you are right now?
I look forward to heaven, and so dying would be kind of a relief.
So I'm spiritually, below average. When it comes down to religion, it's really nothing but kindness and love. I can show love toward you, you show love toward me. First thing you know, it gets over there. First thing we have a circle of love here, and you get a good feeling. And if this is religion, I'll take it.
Well, the main thing is walking hand in hand with God, and that pulls me through. And I'm sure for a lot of the sisters here who've lived their life that way too, but it would be hard for someone without any faith. And so that's why I pray for those without faith.
I have a great relationship with Jesus. I think of Jesus more than God. And to me, dying is meeting Jesus and meeting my family. And I'm just anxious to know what heaven is all about. I'm looking forward to that.
Don't shy away. Lean in instead of leaning out. Have those conversations, be with those people, because what you get back is far more blessings than what you give.
And there's plenty to talk about.
I think there are things that are key characteristics of leading up to death that make it an easier kind of death. And I think one of those characteristics is, number one, being comfortable with yourself. Not holding things, holding, not things, but holding on to grudges or anger or things like that. Because I have seen people who are angry and going into the dying stage, and it's very rough for them. It's like they can't do it. They can't get a hold of what they should be doing at this point because they're angry. They have not let go of something in their lives. So the people who do it, if you will, more easily, are people who really have let life be. They've let go of all these other things that they don't need to hang on to anymore. And they can enter it joyfully.
But Bruce, being a teacher, that his whole life was spent in education, figured this was his last best attempt at teaching. So he wrote the book. What has surprised me since that book came out was how it has morphed into this effort across Minnesota called the Convenings, something I never saw coming.
Since publishing the book about Bruce's insights into the dying process, Kathy has collaborated with Honoring Choices Minnesota, a highly regarded end-of-life planning project, and others to encourage family conversations around end-of-life planning and the implementation of advanced medical directives.
We were talking about what would it be like if you were to bring Bruce's message of living as fully as you can in spite of disease, disability, and impending death, and marry that message with the need to think about how you want to live your life, especially toward the end of your life, and how those conversations that go on around what do you want the end to be like as you sign those advanced care directives? What would it look like? And the main question people have, though, about the advanced care directives, how do you even begin having a conversation about this with your family? There's that fear about opening up the door to a conversation.
Advanced Healthcare Directives, known as a living will, is a legal document that lets people say what they want regarding their health if they no longer are able to make decisions for themselves because of illness or incapacity. But there's more to consider than health.
What we ask people to do is think about what would they like to have at their funeral. And people are very willing to do this for the most part. And the reason for us doing that, and we say this to them, is this is a reflection of who you are, how you've lived your life. So the songs you pick out, the scripture passages you use, all say something about who you were in your lifetime. So we ask them to do that. We also ask people, if they are able, to write down or at least tell somebody their life story.
Your relationship that you have with that person to a new, higher level. And the body of that person will be gone in your life, but the memories and the stories that are shown and the love that is given, you'll have forever. And you won't regret it.
But for some people, I think they just never do it. They don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about that. Yeah, I know it's going to happen, but I don't want to talk about it. So it's hard.
We've identified 4 of 5 steps that contribute to dying gracefully. We'll continue after this break.
Hi, we're the St. Joseph Workers. We are women between the ages of 21 and 30, volunteering in a one-year service program based on the core values of spirituality, leadership, community, and social justice.
The St. Joseph Worker Program is a ministry of the Sisters of St. Joseph who strive to love God and dear neighbor without distinction.
In the program, we focus on living simply and sustainably,
working to assist those in need in communities where we live,
and learning about justice issues so we can advocate for systemic change.
If you would like to live with intention for a year and
grow your spirit
and learn more about justice issues
and polish your leadership skills,
then check us out at stjosephworkers.org.
1, 2, 3, St. Joseph!
Today, in Search of the Divine, we're talking with people who are actively dying and people who work with the dying to see what they believe contributes to a graceful death. So far, we've learned that dying is hard work, fear is natural, faith helps, and so does talking about what's happening. And there's one more point our experts want to share.
I think I could say with great certainty that 98% of it is just being there. Being who you are and being present.
I think about dying a lot. Mostly I think about meeting my family again. To me, I miss them so much.
It's not about words. It's about being in the presence. And I've found that that's a recurring theme, that people come to that sense that it's not about words, it's just being. Just being, if you will, relaxed, where you are. This is who I am.
I really don't have much wisdom I can tell anybody. I think you got to go through it to yourself. You got to live it. I could talk here and explain things, but it's your head, your body, and you got to adjust to it.
You don't have to do a lot with someone that's dying, but be. And I can't explain. It's not about doing anymore. It's about being present, being with them, not doing.
I used to think it would be awful, but it was actually a very holy moment, truly, to be there to experience that.
Touch is really important when someone is dying. Unless you've been told otherwise. So to lightly touch someone on the shoulder or on their hands or holding hands, as I did with Margaret when she was dying, is very powerful because they get a sense of the dying person gets a sense of your presence, even when you don't say a word.
Be present. Listen to both what they say and don't say, hidden messages, hidden meanings, talking about trips, going places, open doors, open windows. Believe them when they say mom was here, or their dad was here, or a pet, or a baby came to visit, because they did.
Her name was Margaret, and I will never forget Margaret because she's the first person that I sat with in that final moment, and it was extraordinary and beautiful and powerful and amazing. Amazing grace right there.
I guess I've learned that, yes, it can be a soul enriching experience to be with those who are dying. And in those last moments of life, even though it's incredibly sad, I experienced great love being with Bruce. And that really opened my heart. And it was a very holy moment. And boy, it's really changed my life.
I think I'm ready for it. All I'm doing is using up a lot of space here, a lot of a lot of material wealth and stuff. I have a hard time spending money here at the end of life.
Don't run. Run to, don't run away. People are changed by this experience who do it. Families are changed. It's the hardest, best work you will ever do.
Dying is such a mystery. And yet it can be such a blessing. I don't know I would never want to have to live on forever.
Just keep close to God. Stay close to God, and even if you haven't been close to God before, just pick a prayer you know, like the Our Father, and say it slowly, and maybe you'll be inspired to be a little closer to heaven and to God.
Thanks for joining us today on In Search of the Divine as we learned about how to die gracefully. For some, this topic may seem almost taboo, but given that we're all going to deal with it at some point, we hope this candid discussion will be helpful. If you'd like more information about this program, visit insearchofthedivine.org. Thanks for watching. I'm Ann Thompson.
And loving is nothing but letting go. Same as dying, you join the flow. Same as falling, you just go down. You might feel the pain when you hit the ground.
Every week, thousands of Catholic adults use Sunday by Sunday to reflect on the Gospels of the liturgical year. Sunday by Sunday is a publication of the Sisters of St. Joseph in St. Paul, Minnesota. Sunday by Sunday is ready to use, just 4 brief pages each week. It begins and ends with prayer. Its questions inspire adults to share the faith they live and to wrestle with what Jesus in the Gospels asks of us in our time, in our neighborhoods, and our world. Leading a faith-sharing group is easy and life-giving with Sunday by Sunday. For free samples, visit our website, goodgroundpress.com, or call 800-232-5533. And join our conversations online at keepingfaithtoday.com, Facebook, and Twitter.